We're here.
We're here. Look, we need a producer, and like
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter because
we're
like we don't.
trying. That's not my strong suit. We're trying. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi. How are you, friend?
Hello,
Hello.
Baxter, Zebra.
How's it going? Thanks, guys, for popping in. I'm excited for this episode. I'm really excited for next week's episode, which we'll talk about at the end here. It's going to be a really good one. So tonight, I'm going to be sort of interviewing Batty, and I feel like that'll help us be less squirrel-like.
Oh yeah, I need my button.
Oh, my 4-year-old took mine, and I have no idea where it is. I'm just going to be fully honest here.
Oh my gosh, I've been protecting mine.
It's chaos here. I'm telling you. Like, kids get home, and it's chaos. We started a new preschool this week. It's been an adventure. I do want to say I'm hitting garden fatigue.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The aphids are relentless, and I think I lost my pumpkin plant, and my tomatoes don't have enough calcium, so they're cracking at the tops when they're big, voluptuous, beautiful maters. I did give them some calcium help, but we're at garden fatigue, y'all. So I'm gonna start focusing on my hydroponic more, because we only have probably about 5 weeks left of harvesting or growing here in Colorado outside. I'm there. I feel guilty, but it's been a rough garden season.
I mean, I'm at fatigue like in general.
Yeah. But you have like a physical like reason to be at fatigue.
Yeah.
I'm just being like lazy and
Well, so like your tomato plants too, by the way, like if they're like nutrient deficient and you're trying to like regain that back, go through them and like literally cut off all the shade branches at this point in the season. Like they're just taking up nutrients. So if you really wanted to like hit them with some calcium and then cut all those off, so it's focused on like the fruit and the plant and all that, it might bring them back.
because I have a lot of tomatoes on them. They're growing like crazy, but it's just they're splitting, so we only get to eat like half the tomato.
I can't tell you, I haven't been out to my garden in 3 days.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I haven't been out there because literally craziness has been happening. For one, I text Logic, like I haven't even been available to anyone other than the chaos that's been going on. But
TJ's here.
oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I will. But so there's been chaos and then like obviously last minute I decided like a little over a week ago that Brody was going to go to kindergarten for sure because it was something that I was just like no 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 about, but um let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's dive into that. It's a good subject starter. So you had homeschooled for preschool, correct?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. And what was your experience with that?
So I loved it, like, but okay, going into it, when Brody was 2, he wasn't talking yet. So like that's when I was still working and he just literally never talked. And I got him a speech therapist at the time. She came to the house 5 days a week and like he was working with her about like pretty much right after working with her, I would say like 3 months, he started like really using his voice. At first, it was like my oldest son knew sign language from when he was like 3 months old. And not 3 months, probably like 6 months. I just like messed up the size of a baby in my head, but like probably like 6 months. He could do like the basic hand gestures and like he signed and talked until he was like 2. And with Brody, it was different because, I was heavy in my career, went back to work right after I had him. And then, so I got him with speech. And then he was talking all that we moved. So this is a completely different area, which is a big part of what I want to talk about. Like, um, my oldest son doesn't have any friends here. Like we moved here when I got sick. So it was one of those things where he ended the school year. They let out school early right when COVID happened. That was 2019.
Major.
And then um I decided not to put him back in school from that moment on. So we had been homeschooling when we came here. And with Brody, he obviously wasn't old enough yet. And I was just like, okay, I'm home now because I'm sick, which was a struggle for me. Because, like, in the beginning, some days I couldn't even like talk or like enunciate what I was trying to say. And moral of the story is like the only reason I put my kids or my oldest is still home at this point. We've been talking about it with him on whether or not he wants to go into school, and he can't decide, and I'm okay with him not deciding because my oldest is a different situation. So my youngest, I felt forced into this because me being chronically ill, like I can't go and do consistently. I can't go and do the things out of the house where I'm taking him to like a practice or like a group thing, or because some days I just can't, and I can't drive or I can't rely on other people to like, do that. It's a crippling feeling. So it's like socializing the kids here plus with COVID on top of it, where there was so many restrictions and all of that, like it just hasn't been normal for us to not be intertwined in a school system where I could just call the office that I know and be like, hey, what programs, blah, 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 because I kind of know the drill. So Brody needed socialization, like he needed it bad. He is my best friend, and that's kind of like crazy to say, but Brody is like my ride or die. He's with me 24/7, and that's not a bad thing, right? Like in secluded communities, like let's say the Amish community or a family that just lives out completely in the boondocks and has multiple children or whatever, like that's the way that they grow up and they know that, and that's all they know. But Brody he watches TV, and Peppa has a bus, and like the bus goes past our house and other kids are on it. And this was a thing where last year, he was supposed to be in preschool, but he was preschooling with me, and he started to notice those things. And like he wanted to be a part of it. And then, I have to be like the caregiver, the best friend, his play buddy, the person that has to be strict on him. So for me and Brody's dynamic, like mother and son, I felt like it just is a good thing for him to have a little bit of space from me. And if I was going to do it, it's only going to be for kindergarten. Like, I don't want to go past this year personally, but I'm like, if I'm going to get him socialized and kind of figure out like what groups are in this area that he can be in homeschooling for when he's in first grade, I kind of need to be like in that environment. And also, I mean, I guess I have a lot to say when it comes to like the school board and the school district and all of those things. And the bus forgot him this morning. Nobody was answering the phone. Like, these are the things that just aren't okay. You're responsible for kids, and like they're out at the bus, and when the kid goes out to bus stop, technically, even though I'm still there, I'm on school time. When he's not in my house and he walks outside with his backpack and it turns to be 7:40, it's your responsibility. My child is clocked in with you.
Right.
Because even if he was a little bit older and he could be out at the bus stop by himself, like I could have left for work, whatever. But these are the things that just like nobody is paying attention to. Nobody cares. And like it's so broken in so many ways that I don't even care to start anything with the school board. Like that's not my plan. I'm just going to go straight to the state. And then like as I keep talking about like these things that I see as a problem and adding them to the list, like we're just going to get it handled. Like we, the people versus, you know, the state.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack in all of that because there were a few things that like I want to dive deeper into. One of them, like I totally understand the socialization. So I am for anyone who doesn't know, full-time working mama. I've got 2 businesses. I knew when we were going to have kids that I was going to continue to work. I'm not chronically ill, so that's a caveat there. And that's my personal choice. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. They're in preschool, and they have been since they were a year old each is when I started them. And the school that they're at, they had a high teacher turnover. There were no longer teachers that we connected with. We made the decision to switch them. And if anyone knows what preschool costs full time, it's astronomical. And in Colorado, it's the 3rd most expensive state in the nation. And so it's a difficult decision to make. And I think what's important though is even when you're making that decision, like always ensure that the kids are first. So if I ever noticed that my kids were withdrawn, that they weren't developing, that I felt like they weren't doing well or thriving, I would have to make some sacrifices and have them home. That is what it is. That's where I lie as a mom. And I think it's important to ensure that, and that's hard as a parent because in our minds, we're like, we know best, we know what's best for our kids. And we do, but we also need to balance that with the reality of what the kids are going through. And thank goodness our kids are doing great. They love it. They swim, everything else. So my question is, he's in kindergarten. We'll see how it goes because obviously you don't know yet how he's going to do. Did you ask your school specific questions before enrolling him, or kind of what was your process before you made like that got you to a level that you were like, okay, we'll do this for a year?
Well, I think it was more of Brody's dad that really like honestly pushed me into it. Like I didn't want to do it. But I am starting like a career for myself, like starting a business for myself, which they're all plans that I've had in the making, and like working with somebody else for something for me. I've never done that before on like in terms of this. I've had a credit repair company in the past, but like that was when I was healthy. And like this, if I'm, I talked last week about going off the not doing the Social Security because I don't want to be attached to the system, and they're just like way too close in my business. I've waited 2.5 years for them to help me, and if I didn't have other resources, I would be homeless at this point with my kids and chronically ill. So like I don't want to be a part of the system. So a lot of that was me over the past 7 days. I'm still giving myself another 7. I told myself I was going to decide whether or not I was going to call the Social Security Bureau and say, just forget it. After all this time, just forget it. Like, and if I'm going to do that, I need to focus on having that time where I'm very overstimulated. So like, I don't like to say it like this, especially on a recording, but like Brody is a very active kid, and like it's a lot. It's a lot. I get very overstimulated, like sometimes where he's like, if he screams out of nowhere or whatever, like I'm sitting there for hours trying not to pass out because he just scared me and got my heart out of whack. Right. So like if I'm going to focus on these things, I need to also take that time to like, or have time during the day to be able to focus on me. And I don't want to say that in the sense of like using the school system as a daycare, because I don't like that.
Right.
But I do need that. And also other people see that like it is a lot for me to homeschool Gage, for me to homeschool Brody, for me to try to do things for me to be independent without the system, and also just take care of my health as a full-time job in general.
I was like, all while being chronically ill. So
yeah,
that's a lot.
And yeah, it's a lot. And like so I felt really, he kind of like pushed it at the last minute and didn't like kind of hit me out of nowhere. And I think that that's the only way that I would have even considered it, because if he would have started talking about this months ago, I would have had time to prepare the 50,000 reasons on why he's like a horrible person for making me do this. But I guess it is timing's everything, and that's part of it. But Brody does need the socialization, and that's what he was saying. Not that, because I overcompensate during the day. Like I feel guilt, a lot of guilt for when I haven't been feeling good for the day. And then I'm like, I get overly active with Brody or whatever and spiral myself out of control. So people see it,
Yeah, that's a hard cycle for sure. And I think one thing that I hate most about being a mom is mom guilt. And what I hate too is that I think society has created that. And what's really sad too is I feel like as a mom who speaks with a stay-at-home mom, before they say anything, I immediately feel like I'm being judged for being a working mom.
Yeah.
And it's so
I've been there.
And it switches though. It switches because I think stay-at-home moms feel like they're looked down upon by working moms. And we need to drop the mom guilt because exactly what Justin just said, like we cannot pour into our children from an empty cup. And I know as a mother, I have to have my time to pursue the things that fill my cup and that I feel provide for my family in order to be a better mom. And being chronically ill, you have to be selfish. Otherwise, you're going to end up in the hospital. Like you have to be a bit selfish. And it sucks. And I hate that chronically ill folks are in that scenario, but it's the reality of it. You have to be really careful about balancing your needs, and especially if you're going to be, pursuing a new business, etc. But I just wanted to say, like, the mom guilt, it sucks. I don't think there's any mom who hasn't felt it, or judgment. And as much as we can, I think it's just supporting each other in our decisions as parents, because it's a hard fucking job. Being a parent is a hard, ridiculously hard job. Like no matter what you do, you feel like you're screwing it up.
But that's the part of it. Like that is right there. Okay. Being a parent is a hard job. And like, especially in 2022. And I know a lot of like adults, they say like, oh, you're ruining your kids and blah, blah, blah. We are because they have the phone, the tablet, all those things. Like they are so programmed. It's not even funny. And to keep them away from that, it's so hard. But I do my best. We all do our best. But like, life today is set up to be anxious. Like my grandma didn't have to raise kids and then also like help my mom with her children and make sure that they went to the B&B, called back the did like logged into the school portal and then emailed and then text and then got to go to work. And then now both parents are working because that's just the way that life is in 2022, because now there's the career mom that wants to work because she loves her career and she's blessed to have a husband that can pay all the bills and her money is just her money. But realistically, that doesn't happen that often. Most of the time, moms are working because they need a double income household. And like, they need to, then they're outweighing the option of like, is daycare gonna really be worth it or not? So whenever we're, thinking about those things, like our kids, I never drive past here. And if I did, and I ever saw like a bunch of bikes in somebody's yard, I'd stop by and be like, hey, do you want to, like, how old are you guys? Like, my son's down the road. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it doesn't happen here. So like, our kids are here. We are our kids' support system. Their grandparents, they're in Florida, y'all. Like, I'm blessed to have Brody's grandparents, my mom, like, they help me, my sister, they help me so much, especially whenever like I am spiraling. Like you guys probably noticed there's some weeks where I'm live like during the week because, especially in the summer, because Brody's grandparents took him to the camper for a few days because they were going to be down there anyway, and they enjoy spending time with him. But a lot of it's for me because I need to wind down and they can tell that I'm not doing good. So that is life. And like, it's not the way that it used to be.
No. And I think not only that, but God, there's so many pressures because also like being a working mom, and I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to, I also put the expectation on myself that I need to maintain a house as if I were a stay-at-home mom.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's impossible.
I feel that.
it's impossible. I can't. And I drive myself crazy. And then I find myself spending 3 or 4 hours on the weekend because I'm very type A. I like things tidy. I get way too focused on things that truly don't matter. Like if I were on my deathbed tomorrow, I wouldn't think about how clean my flipping kitchen is. But here we are. So I'll spend 3 or 4 hours on the weekend cleaning, and then I'll stop and I'll be like, what am I doing? Like, check myself. I need to go play outside with the kids for a while. Like, so it's really, I think a big part of it is drowning out the noise, whether it's societal, whether it's your own demons and your own like tendencies to focus on things that in the big picture, if you were to take a step back and be like, okay, does this actually matter? They don't. And I think we also, part of playing into the decision to public school or homeschool, what I think is hard too, is there's a lot of noise from society or from groups that we align with as far as what we think is right or what we should be doing, instead of like, okay, well, let's break this down. Like realistically for my life right now, for where I'm at and for my children's well-being, what's best? Not what everyone thinks is best for my kid, what's best for us, and make that decision as a parent, and also obviously with your child, because every child's unique. And I think it's so hard though. Like being a parent is impossible. But I also wanted to ask from the public school perspective, so you'll switch back to homeschooling. Like what if your career takes off? And I'm asking this too because I don't know how I could pull off homeschooling. I'm just being brutally honest with you guys. And part of the reason that they are in preschool is I do work from home. They could technically be here, but they would watch probably much more TV than I would like. And I know that they're going to a school with a set curriculum. They do it better than I do. I've never been like great. That's not where my strengths are as a mom. And I think what's hard is how will you balance it? I know there's a lot of online curriculum that you can follow. I know there's a lot of online socializing groups, by the way, too. Like they'll do straight up like school dances and with homeschool kids.
So those in my area are non-existent.
What?
So like, I thought they were non-existent, but one of the pages actually like come to find out got banned. So, and that was like not last year, the year before, like when homeschooling really popped off.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's like a censored thing. Yeah. And so it's really weird here. And that's one of my goals for this year. Like having Brody I feel like he's like infiltrating the school for me. Like having Brody in the door, I can like, talk to these PTO ladies and be like, hey, like peep this situation out. And like the goal, ultimately, like I plan on being somewhere else a year from now. So I don't know where that's going to be, but I want to have like a structure built where like I'm doing one day with maybe like 5 kids.
Yeah,
and
like
we're
yeah,
like
yeah,
right. Because then they're getting out of the house, they're getting a different face every day. I'm good at history, like the rest of the people. I hate math.
Don't let me do
what I
art.
mean? Like,
Do not let me do art. That would be no.
no art?
No.
Oh,
No.
I'll do art and history.
I don't have an artistic bone in my body at all. I would probably do English. Like that's probably.
You would do English. I use Grammarly. I use Grammarly to check Gage's papers sometimes. I'm like, this shit's hard. I don't know.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's a great way to make connections, with him in kindergarten this year. And do you think there's any possibility in your mind at all that he would end up continuing or going back to the public school system?
I'll never go against like my kids being happy. But I do know that like even today, Like they got the wrath, dude. Like I walked in the office after I got Brody in the car, and on his first day, like they ruined my moment of seeing my kindergartner get on the bus. So
Yeah.
then I'm stressed out. He's upset because we talked about this. This was the freaking plan. Like we went over this, and he's a kindergartner, and like in his mind, that's what it is. I go in the office and I'm like, and like they all know me. Like they know me from TikTok. So like yeah. So I get like the weird looks and stuff like that, and they're like, "Hi, Chelsea." And I'm like, "Hey, so the bus didn't come, and like he literally just drove past and never even stopped, like forgot Brody." And she's like, let me check the system. Like, Brody's not on the route. Like, they messed it up. And I'm like thinking in my head, how many other kids are in this situation that didn't have their parents standing outside with them? That's a problem. And then on top of it, like, this lady looks at me and she's like, if you're watching right now, yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking, lady. She looks at me and she was like, you know, so I'm like, I'm gonna ask you, like, are we gonna have this issue resolved? Because I took Brody with me into the office. Like, I walked past his teacher and all the kids in the line, and I was like, no, I'm gonna take him in with me. Because I asked the lady, like, do you know what bus? Like, can you guarantee to me that he's gonna be leaving this school on the bus and like I'm gonna see him in my driveway because that's where I'll be waiting. And I'm like, or do I need to come and pick him up? And she was like, well, um, we could probably get the bus there. And I was like, okay, so I will pick him up. Like, I'll come and pick him up. And she was like, in the middle of her, like, frantically looking on her desk, she was like, Brody needs to go outside and be in the line with his teacher. And I said, ma'am, I'm the only person that can tell him whether he's going to be on the bus or a car rider because he should never listen to anybody else other than his mom when we're planning his situation.
Right.
So like
Right.
you're not going to tell him to go get in line. Honey, you get in line.
Right.
Because he's going to stand here with me until I can tell him on his first day of kindergarten if he's going to be riding in the car or getting on the bus from my mouth.
So did you pick him up?
Yes, I picked him up.
Is the bus coming tomorrow?
They still didn't have the issue resolved enough they told me they were going to call me. They never called me during the school hours, like they said. So I went and picked him up, like for the plan for tomorrow. So I went and picked him up, and then they called me today at like 5:30, and I wasn't by my phone. So I got a voicemail, but I didn't talk to anyone to say otherwise. So I'm just going to take him in the morning, pick him up again tomorrow, and then we'll start fresh on Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just really frustrating. And I'm thinking like, okay, I'm the mom that thinks like that. But there's a lot that don't because they have shit going on in their life and like they're just trying to get to work, you know? Like, and these are the things that are a problem. Like okay, so then there's a tag. So at back to school night, the teacher was like, everybody, like this year we're doing these tags. And it has a barcode on it. So they scan in when they get on the bus. And it confirms that everybody's on the bus for the person before they take off. And I'm thinking like, she's like, we're trying this year. And I'm thinking in my head, like, what didn't work the years prior and how bad was it? You know what I mean?
Well, and honestly, like from an operational standpoint, it's taken you this long to come up with a system for this.
Right? Like, how long has the school been there?
I feel like this is wildly inefficient. And which again, yeah, public school system, government, etc. It's not that surprising, but like, let's really put our minds to work here. You could even search the interwebs for what other innovative schools are doing that has worked. Or literally, you know what it could, like, you take a piece of paper, highlight. I mean, I guess the tricky part would be if a kid's sick or whatever, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, but like the barcode system to me doesn't seem efficient. Like, why doesn't the bus driver just turn around and look? Because like Bobby could pick up like Brody's tag.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like scan. So anyway, besides the point, like this was what they went over for like 25 minutes during back to school night, talking to me about like how efficient this tag is going to be and it's the new system and like it's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. He came home with no tag. Like she said she was giving it to them on the first day and he didn't have his tag.
It's off to a solid start. I will give them that.
Right.
Solid start. Do you guys have charter schools in Indiana?
We do, but they're not that great. The great ones are like for the neighborhood that's down the street that's like all the millionaires.
Which
you know what I mean?
I do think charter schools are a solid option for parents to find a balance between, you know, public school environment, but more parent involvement and parent consideration and input. Here, like the one close to me is $200 a year. And like it's actual parents on their board. Like
that's kind of badass.
Yeah, so Colorado, I think, has figured out a pretty solid balance with funding and charter schools. Now, I will say the school boards hate the charter schools because they're pulling money from the public schools. But it's, yeah. And here's the thing, like, if they would for once consider that they don't know it all and they're not doing a great job, they could get parent involvement, and all that would lead to is better solutions and more robust.
Parent involvement is a public school.
Yeah, but there's
the public runs the school.
Yeah, but there's no though.
Right. So like that's what like my main goal is with the state this year. Like I'm not going to the school board. Like I'm just gonna write down every single fuck up. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to sit here and argue with the school board that tells me like we need to have another meeting and blah blah blah. Like people have been doing that from what I know. And like we're here, you just passed my kid up and said like you forgot him. So that's out the door.
Where's the accountability? Like what's and I understand mistakes happen. Okay. I'm not saying that you like lay the hammer down every time that an error happens. There's a lot of underpaid teachers. Like I do sympathize with that and understand that. But I think to a certain extent, like you said, like there needs to be accountability and there needs to be public involvement. And not only that, but public involvement and parent involvement needs to be encouraged and not shunned. We shouldn't be calling the police on parents at school board meetings or not allowing them in these meetings to discuss things that directly impact their children.
Right. Like ultimately, and that's literally how I feel. And like, they know that. So like this morning when this is all happening, I was sitting there like hitting the call button, hanging up, hitting the call button, hanging up, hitting the call button, hanging up. I have 27 phone calls of me calling the transportation system. And like, it keeps going to voicemail. And so anyway, besides the point, my family at this point knows that this is happening because like Brandon was texting them. And like, when I walked into the school, Brandon literally looked at me and was like, "Don't embarrass me." And I was like, "Boy, you will embarrass yourself for not letting me go hard on this school. Like, just stay quiet." And my family was like, "Did she get out of there? Like, is everything cool?" Because like, I will. Like somebody, like I don't play games. So like, I don't let people have slack either. And when it comes to the whole aspect of like, nobody is above me. Like this child came from my womb. So like whether you work for the state or whatever, I don't care. Like I don't care. When I have a question, you better answer it.
Yeah.
And like that's just how it is. Like you work for me. You work for my kid.
Right.
And you're a servant, a public servant.
I feel like you're not that terrifying. You're very like confident and direct and you know your shit, and I respect that. So maybe that's why I don't find you scary. But it's important. And again, I think, you know, you were speaking on COVID. And I do think that was the catalyst, because a lot of parents saw some curriculum that they were like, wait a minute. So you had that, they were seeing things that they were like, that I didn't know my kid was learning this. Then you had the mask mandates that were going against science, that were going against the child's best interest, which brought to light the teacher associations and all that political junk. And then you had the school boards pushing back. As soon as the school boards started to get parent pressure, it was like all hell broke loose, and it was immediately demonizing the parents.
I'm glad you just said that, because this is literally one of the questions that I asked her yesterday. And I know he's only in kindergarten. And no, I don't really plan on going back for first grade. Like, if it's up to me, I think that I really want to be talking to Brody and like preparing him this entire year for the fact that he's not going back. But like, I did ask her about that. Like, what if, you know, you have some assignment, which it probably isn't going to happen, that I don't agree with? And she was like, well, you know, he would have to take a 0 for it and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, he wouldn't. I would just sign off on that and say, null and void. Like, Brody's not doing this assignment, because I'm his mom. Like, I'm his mom. I have power over the state, which means I have power over the school, which means I have power over my child. Literally, I own him. I literally own him. So that's it.
Yeah, just ask the IRS.
We don't play. Like, I'm not doing this.
I think also, like, I would love to see, because I try to always see the silver lining and what can come from crappy situations. And I'm trying to manifest this in my own little corner of the world, that it will bring about a renaissance of the public school system. Because there are so many parents that are running for school board positions now because they've had enough and they've seen enough. And, you know, or putting pressure on their legislators, like, all right, we need charter schools because this public school system's not listening to us. They disregard us. They're inefficient as hell. They just straight up only care about their agenda. Let's engage charter schools. And so I truly hope, and I'm probably having a little too much faith in the American public, but that it will bring about change, massive change in the public school system. But it's going to take people like you. And I don't have a kid in kindergarten yet. People like me. I mean, I literally lit up the director at their old preschool multiple times. Like, she was in tears because she was like, I wasn't sure what I was going to say to you when you said you were leaving, because she was slightly terrified. As she probably should have been, because
yeah,
she was not meant to run a preschool.
That's sad.
So I think the more parents who see parents like you standing up, the more they're going to feel emboldened and empowered to stand up.
Yeah. And I'm not playing games either. Like, I'm not keeping the secrets. Like, I'm not here to just help Brody. Like,
Right.
if I'm going to infiltrate the school, I literally already signed up for all like the group things on Facebook. You know what I mean? Like, I entered the fucking chat. You know what I mean? And like, the only one that I haven't been approved in, the only one I haven't been approved in is the one that the school approves your questions. And I literally am like, okay, I'm gonna give it 7 days because they might be busy. It's the first couple days, but like, you better approve my shit.
That's showing some grace. That's so much.
You better fucking let me in. I pay for that shit.
Great. I think it's great, and I think I would love to, you know, periodically check in on school and parent issues, because I do know through COVID, I organized that nationwide school walkout, that mask mandate school walkout.
Yeah.
September of 2020 or 2021? No,
2020.
2021, because Freedom 515 took off last year, May of 2021.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, yeah, it did. You're
yeah.
right.
Yeah, okay. I was like, wait, what? So
time is an illusion.
The parents were I heard over and over and over again from hundreds of parents that, like, thank you. I'm just trying to find something, like some way to stand up. I'm trying to find some way to take action. Like, so many feel hopeless because they just don't know where to start. And a lot of them aren't confrontational people who are willing to like go into the office and like tell it how it is. But if they see that that is happening, they're going to jump behind and they're going to step up, but they just don't know where to start. I think a lot of parents don't know where to start. They're working 40, 50 hour weeks. Maybe they're a single mom who's like, how do I have time to do any of this? And if you can just give them the tools and show them the way and, you know, put a spotlight on the issues, I think it could make a big difference.
Yeah, like, which is why I just don't have time for like only worrying about Brody. Like, if I'm gonna be in this shit show for a year,
Mm-hmm.
hating every minute of it, because you know I will. And I also have like this whole other level of like my ego's messed up from this. But like, if I'm gonna be in this shit for a year, I'm gonna tell them when they're bitching in the group chat, like, honey, just go in there, put your initials on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, put your sign it, send
Let's do
it.
this.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit here and like, because it isn't, I think a lot of moms and stuff, like, yeah, they're busy, or dads or whatever, but some of them just don't know. Like, they don't realize that they have the right. Like, they don't the
Yeah.
school has made them think that like they have to follow the rules and all of those things. Like,
And they
no.
don't. Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah.
imagine if you had just like coalitions of parents within each school across the country where they could quickly get messages to each other and say, look, we need to go put pressure on this. That is accountability. That right there, you can't tell me that wouldn't put a fire under the principal's ass to think twice about what they're doing if they knew there was a microscope and literally 300 parents ready to jump on him or her if they, you know, make a shoddy decision or a mistake. Like, it takes involvement though, and it takes parents prioritizing that involvement. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. Maybe that's the optimist in me, but I think
So I was on the Indiana State website because, like, you know, you have everybody has the right to a free trial in a timely manner. So I'm on there, like, going through, filling things out, and I ended up saving it because I'm at the section where like I start to fill out like what I would want the trial for, obviously. And like my first thing on there is like on my list, on my notes, is that like I want not only like these school boards need to have a certain amount of parents on them. I think honestly it should be all parents because they are public schools. But if I can get that changed in Indiana where it's only, you know, PTO and they have to change out every 2 years, like that's my goal for all of this. If I'm going to do this shit for a year, let me try to do that, because at that point, then I know, you know, some schools are still going to struggle because of that concept of like we don't know what to do, but it will start to change the pattern throughout the entire state instead of just fucking around with one school board.
right.
So like that's my goal. I don't know how far we're going to get. I don't know if at some point I'm going to need a lawyer, but it's free. Like the state has to represent me, so here we go, you know?
I think
Like
it's
it's just,
and I think that totally aligns with Brace for Impact as something we should share. We had started Parents Corner with Freedom 515, and it just didn't get off the ground because there weren't enough volunteers to get it going. But trying to help parents with homeschooling resources, because it is so overwhelming to even just get started as a parent who's going to homeschool. But that's where community comes into play. And I know this is like beating a dead horse, but if you have a community of parents locally that you can plug into who are either homeschooling or who are in your kid's school that are willing to step up and make change, I mean, you're unstoppable. You really are. It only takes one spark.
that's really true. Something else I should put on my notes, because like I was saying here, I can't confirm or deny that like these groups are just non-existent, but I know one of them did get banned. I don't know if it's because like the person that was leading, you know, you never know the whole story. But
I think they're
like having
but I think
resources for parents to be able to easily do like set up things like that for homeschooling, because that should be something simple.
right, right. And setting up like a network where people can easily go and say, oh, okay, here's like the homeschooling social network for my kids that we can plug into where they have events each month or, you know, once a week, whether it's robotics club or, you know, some type of sports, whatever it is. I think it's so important. And unfortunately, I believe COVID got us farther apart, and it gave social media a much stronger arm in regards to censoring and what they allow. And we had begun to rely on that so much as communication. Now we're kind of in an odd place where it's like, okay, we need to connect. We need to start taking action. And Telegram, I agree, Justin. I think Telegram's a great option. A lot of parents don't know about Telegram. And so it's informing them about it and getting them into the group. And that takes connections. Shoot, whether you hand out a flyer in front of the school, like, hey, parents, that's not that hard to do. Like, if you're interested in making sure we have a powerful network of parents ready to look out for what's best for our kids and just connect with other parents in the area, whatever. I mean, that's boom right there. I know it's old school, but it's an idea. I would love to do an episode on those types of ideas. I know Rebel Pickle, I don't know if you know her from Illinois.
Yeah, I haven't seen her in a while because I think she blocked me.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll deal with that at a later date.
I like her. I like her a lot.
But I also have a homeschooling mom who literally got her kid into college, and she homeschooled them from kindergarten in South Carolina, and she's got her shit together. She has them plugged into a great social group. She's also a wicked activist in South Carolina for the state legislators. She's awesome. I'd love to have her on as a guest. But since we are running out of time, we're going to check back in with you on this whole school adventure. I'm excited to hear about it. So maybe in like 3 or 4 episodes, we'll do an update video on this very subject. And we'll gauge interest and just start to get the ball rolling on connecting people. Like, if we could have a Brace for Impact, I could even put that on Freedom 515 with the Telegram groups for all the local school, the parent groups. I'd be happy to post that on Freedom 515.
Because honestly, like, I have so many ways about it that I've thought about, like, over the past 48 hours, like, just making lists on, like, how easy it would be constitutionally. Mm-hmm. And, like, I do that. I bullet point, like, what I'm going to write out for, when I start, like, what my, starts with an A.
Action
plan? Document.
Action plan?
No, when I write out, like, we the people, blah, blah, blah.
Affidavit.
Thank you. It was right there. But yeah, like, I have that, like, mapped out in my head, like, how step by step, like, any way that they could kind of, like, counter whatever. Like, it should be a simple thing to get a trial, boom, done. And, like, if we could do that and have one person in every state that has parents on the school board that are switching out every 2 years, that is a fucking massive change. And then I just added that bullet point about what you were saying. But yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be stuck here in kindergarten with Brody for a year, hating Miss Mendez, because, I mean, I actually really like her. She's really nice. But, like, and she's younger, whatever. But I do not like her because, like, she just took my little buddy,
I get it. It'll be okay, though, I promise. Mm-hmm. But another thing, so exciting announcement, guys. Next week, we have a killer episode that I'm super excited about with Justin, Everything Knowledge. He's been in the comments. Find him on TikTok. He posts a lot, I think, on Everything Knowledge 4. Is that right, Justin?
I never know.
4 or 3. I think he has 2. But anyways, he is an incredible, holistic, walking encyclopedia of knowledge. Like, you would be blown away at how much he can help you level up in your health. Everything Knowledge 2 is where he is. Look him up on TikTok. We're going to have him as a guest next week. We're super excited. We're going to talk about taking control of your health, where to get started, and then what resources. Also, if you're chronically ill, how to start to go down that path of trying to heal your body and cope with your chronic illness, how to take care of yourself through day-to-day life. So it's going to be a super great episode. I'm so excited.
I love Spoonie Talk.
Yes, it'll be great. I'm really excited. I think it's good. I have a feeling we'll probably go over an hour. But we'll see where the conversation leads. So we will keep you guys posted on the parent resources stuff. I think there's a lot of folks who would love to hear updates and be interested in that and to hear your journey.
Yeah, and I mean, if things are moving in the right direction, and like I'll update everybody on like the process of like how simple it is to get like literally go on the state website. Every state has it, and like get a free trial and like fill all that information out. It's so easy. And you
Well,
don't have to be like legal speaking for it. You know what I mean? Like you just have to say what it is. Like you just got to be like, Carhartt fucked me over and I want the state support. Like, and then you kind of go there and they'll handle the rest. They'll talk about
see, and
it when
just
you want to.
giving people, that was like that was a big part of what Freedom 515 was meant to do, was to give people resources. Like, if you want more charter schools in your state, here's the action plan. Go do it. And just like put those resources posted publicly so people can access them, because they just need the information. They just don't know.
Right.
That's really I am a firm believer that and messed up priorities in society today are the main culprits. So
What was the reason?
Huh?
What was the reason? You remember that audio?
Oh,
That's like a throwback.
it is a throwback. That's true. So we appreciate you guys. Baddies Elementary School is in for a wild ride, and I'm excited to grab my popcorn.
Why do I have to come for the elementary school?
It's where you started. I mean, not only that, like kindergarten. We're starting at the base. What you got to do, though.
We'll see you guys next week with Everything Knowledge.
Check you later.
Bye.